We are today welcoming Dr. Jeannie Stone. And Dr. Stone, you are well known in this community and well known to many members of our church, but there may be some who don't know who you are and what role you play. Could you tell us about the role that you play and how long you've been in that role?
Sure. So I'm the superintendent of Richardson ISD. I've been in that role since January 2017. And in that role, I guess the best way to describe it is I'm the chief instructional leader of the district. And what that means is that I get to serve and support over 6,000 employees. Over about 3,000 of those are teachers, and the rest of those are in all the different departments that support all of the teachers and the classrooms. And then 38,000 students and all of their families. And so, it's a great blessing because I just get to serve and support that many people.
So we're in the middle of a sermon series talking about legacies, and today we're talking about the legacy of leadership, which is obviously one of the things that we admire about you and your work. Would you mind telling us a little bit about what your philosophy of leadership is?
Yeah, it's definitely about servanthood. It's definitely about being a servant. And certainly I am a believer and was raised in the church. And so that has been a big part of who I am and has shaped me into being, a servant and a follower of Christ. But in terms of my leadership philosophy, it's definitely about, one of the best ways that I often describe it, it's very bottom up. So kind of one of the best ways to illustrate this is when I first became superintendent and I was meeting, really it was my first group that I was talking to. I was sharing with them about I had, first started out as a teacher, and then I moved up to be an assistant principal, and then I was a principal of a high school, and then I moved into central office, and then I was assistant superintendent, deputy superintendent, and finally I've arrived, I'm a superintendent. And as soon as I said that, and I was illustrating that because I talk with my hands if you haven't figured it out, it struck me and I said, oh my gosh, that means that I'm just way up here at the top looking down, teachers way down there. And so immediately I just had this flash of it's flipped because, I started out as a teacher, which in my eyes truly is at the very top because that's where, with students, they're every day in the trenches with, serving students and where all the magic happens. And then I moved into the different roles, and with each one of the roles, it just gave me greater opportunities to just serve and support more people. And so now, and as the leader of Richardson ISD, I'm definitely at the bottom with supporting everyone who I'm blessed to serve and support. And it's a big, big job, but it's filled with blessings. But that's definitely how I see my role, is definitely not about the top. I'm not at the top pushing stuff down. I'm at the bottom looking up and supporting.
That's beautiful. Well, I'm assuming that in your education, there was never a course on how to be a superintendent of schools during COVID-19, during a pandemic. So you've had to, this year, I can't imagine the burden and the stress of this year for you and for your staff and for all the teachers and the students and the parents and everyone. But what have you learned about leadership in this crisis, in this time? What in this situation has been new to you?
Early on in the pandemic, as I was, everything was so unprecedented, going through all of these uncharted waters. And I would love to ask the Lord to bring on more precedented, chartered waters. But I found that I was really thriving in my position, almost in a new way, because I love to serve. I love to take care of people. That's something that gives me just the greatest satisfaction. If anyone calls and asks for help, I'm in my greatest place that I like to be in. So when everyone was really needing, answers and support in a new way, like none other, for me, not that I was enjoying it, but I was thriving in that moment of being able to just nurture and be there for people, and to remind everyone to take care of themselves, and remind everyone that This was a time to over communicate and make sure that everyone felt safe, because I think that that is really all my life something that I have focused in on from early on when I was young. I was really the caregiver of my family. There's a lot there to that story, but for me, I just really went to the place of nurturing and taking care of people. And then making sure that our principals were taking care of their teachers, that teachers were taking care of their students. Again, that's support. So that's just been the focus of my leadership. And of course, we are working so hard to make sure that we are, it's about student performance. But right now in this time of crisis, it's about taking care of each individual person. And so for me, that's where I have really introduced myself into this crisis, is just to make sure that everyone is safe and secure and over communicated with.
And it's been obvious to us as parents of kids in the school district that you genuinely care for your constituents. You're speaking to what we're talking about in Mark chapter 10. From your philosophy of leadership being upside down, Jesus says that to be great, you have to be a servant of all. So in your context, you've kind of spoken about your own way of seeing leadership from a place of servanthood. How do you encourage that with your teachers and other employees as well? What does it look like to practice servant leadership?
Yeah. Well, just as Jesus did, it's all about modeling it. In my role as superintendent, it's so important for people not to see me as this untouchable, unapproachable person, up at the top, at this figurehead. That's so not who I want to be. I want to be someone that anyone can approach and talk to. I am truly just a person, just like every single other person in our community, every single person in our district. And so I really try to model that by just being myself at all times, being very authentic and real. I don't know another way to be. But, and that means that if someone needs me from, who drives a bus, and they don't feel that there is anyone else that they feel safe sharing their concern or their need with, and they need to talk to me, then I'm going to make time for them. And I model that. And that can be difficult sometimes for people to understand, because people expect there to be this chain of command. But I think the chain, if you think about that word, for me, I've always wanted people to just know that chain of command doesn't have to be there if you have real relationships and people know that you care. And so what I try to model is that for everyone in our school district, so people don't feel like they have to come to me. And if someone does have to come to me, then I go back and we look to see who is it that they skipped over, that they didn't feel they had the relationship, that they could go to that person. And that's where I need to do some work with them to try to build that same kind of relationship of support, so that next time they'll go to maybe their supervisor or someone else. But and so it's really all about modeling, and just, if I mess up, I'm going to apologize. If I really am human. I am human, and I see myself as just this person that most of the time is going to have unmatched socks on and is going to be tripping across the stage sometimes. I really am one of the most clumsy people that you're ever going to meet. And I have frailties, and I want people to know that I see myself just as they see themselves. And through that comes a relationship where people can trust me and know that I truly, genuinely care, because I do. One of the greatest things that I inherited from my mother was an enormous heart to love and care about so many people. And I truly, genuinely do. And that's one of the greatest things about my job.
That comes through so clearly in everything you do and the way you communicate to the teachers. I know as a parent of a teacher in the district, and the way that you communicate your love and concern, not only for the teachers, but for the whole district, the students, the parents, the community. We think you do a marvelous job, and we are big fans of Dr. Jeannie Stone. So your legacy for the future? As you think about, what do you want those teachers who are watching you, what's your legacy for them and those who come after you? What's your legacy?
My legacy is about seeing things through the teacher's eyes. When I moved into leadership, a great mentor of mine said, "Kiddo, you better take the teacher's eyes with you." And that was 25 years ago when I first became an assistant principal. It's the best advice I ever received. And I share that a lot of times with teachers so that they know, but then more so, those are just words unless we live them out. So, in all decisions that we make, in everything that we do, to see things through their eyes, because they're the ones that have to implement the things that we're putting in place. And I think that's another way that I serve teachers, by making sure that we are taking care of them, taking care of their needs. And if we need to change course to make their jobs easier, then we're going to do it. We're not going to dig our heels in and say that decision's been made. So, we try to listen to teachers, and I try to lead that for all of the staff, for principals and everybody who makes the decisions, again, about seeing things through teachers' eyes, so that, we're taking care of them and we love them, and we want them to be happy in their positions and their jobs, because if they're happy, then they're going to be taking care of kids the best that they, and being happy as a person and as a teacher is the best way to do your job. So we have to do that for our teachers.
Well, we just want to say thank you. Again, as a parent of a student, parent of a teacher, it's really neat to see your legacy. I was going to say trickle down. I should say trickle up through the entire district. And so we thank you for your time here today, and we know that your words will inspire those who are joining us today. So thanks again.
And we pray for you. We pray for you and for the teachers and for the students, for the parents. This year particularly, I've challenged our church that we want to pray for our partner schools, of course, but really this year, if we're ever going to be a praying church, this is the year for us to lift up and pray for you and for all the districts. So we do that, and we will continue to do that. We thank you so much.
Thank you. You have no idea how much your prayers mean to me. Thank you, truly.